Alright, before we start, if I sound a little bit jaded, it's because I've been a bit ill this week. So anyway, let's get on with it. I'm going to do a review. I'm going to do these two rather interesting, we call them steak pudding, steak and kidney pudding. But these products are produced by a company called Fray Bentos. Fray Bentos is also the name of a province of Argentina. In fact, it's the one where all the beef comes from. So I think now it's Fray Bentos is a company incorporated in Scotland, and for as long as I can remember, they've been producing corned beef and the famous pot pies, Fray Bentos pot pies, which you bake in the oven. They've now extended their range, or in recent years they extended their range to include these suet pudding versions of steak and kidney pudding, like this one. Is a suet pudding filled with a savoury filling of steak and kidney, and it is a classic British dish, and it's really nice to have something like this available when you're feeling ill or you just don't have the time, and you can produce something rather filling and interesting very quickly. There's also a version with just steak, because unfortunately many of my countrymen are rather squeamish about variety meats like kidneys for some obscure reason. I'm going to do all that with some roasted vegetables. If you're not roasting vegetables, you should give it a try. The flavours are much more pronounced. Roasted cabbage is absolutely delicious, and I roast it with other vegetables to give it some variety and in order to combine the flavours. So to that end, I've got some onion, carrot, celery and some garlic and just a couple of potatoes, because you don't need a lot of starch in this. I personally don't eat much at all, but the steak and kidney pudding is of itself quite starchy because it has the suet pudding mantle, so to speak. So without any further ado, let's go ahead. Okay, concentrating on the vegetables, first of all we've got to turn this into this, and you'll notice that the potatoes have got soaking. I've got those soaking in a little bit of vinegar and water. The rest of the vegetables are all chopped up and they're just now ready for dressing. I'm going to put some olive oil, some salt, some black pepper and some frozen thyme on there, and mix it all in again before that goes in the oven. It'll go in the oven at 200 degrees Celsius, 400 degrees Fahrenheit for round about 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes. Another thing I've got here, I've saved the oil from some sun-dried tomatoes, an antipasti sun-dried tomatoes, which is full of flavours, nice complex flavours, and I often use them when dressing roasted vegetables, and it's a job they do really, really well. So I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of that into the mix just to give it another complexity of flavour. Alright, that's the salt, pepper and thyme added to it, along with the flavoured oil and some additional olive oil, and I've mixed all that in, and it is as you see it right now. Now I'm just going to add the soaked, I'll drain the soaked potatoes and add them to it before slamming it in the oven. Alright, that's it dressed with the potatoes and a little bit more cracked black pepper because I love it, and now that's going in the oven for about 30 to 45 minutes depending on how it looks, at about 200 degrees Celsius, around about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, before I go into the cooking instructions for these little beauties, I want to give a shout out to Mark's Remarks. He's a fellow Brit and he does food reviews and cooking and general chit chat, so he's well worth visiting, and I've put the link just above this picture, somewhere up here, and also in the description, and I'll do a link to his channel at the end of the video. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell to get any future videos, get notification of all his future videos. So right, let's get on with the cooking instructions, and the cooking instructions is the same for all of them. They're really easy. You take off the lid, you open them on a plate like that, and then you stick them in the micro nuke for, I think it's about 3 minutes. Yeah, full power for 3 minutes. That's based on the 750 watt oven, so you can probably adjust that down to 2.5 minutes for a more powerful oven. But you really can't really overcook these. The original pudding was steamed for about 2.5 to 3 hours in the olden days, when we used to cook them in ceramic pudding bowls. And maybe I'll do a video on that, but it won't be for quite a while, because I'm really trying to avoid the highly starched foods at the moment. So I'm doing this because I've been ill and I just can't be bothered to do an awful lot of cooking. So but this is a good review for the sort of people that just don't have the time and they really want to try these items out. So let's get started. Alright, the vegetables are out of the oven, and as you can see, the potatoes are nicely done and the cabbage is starting to brown around the edges. Cooking vegetables in this way, you're not immersing it in water, boiling the hell out of it and tipping all the goodness down the sink. What you're using is the inherent moisture inside the vegetables itself to cook, and of course as it dehydrates during the cooking process, those flavors concentrate and you get a delicious, really tasty product at the end of it. I'm starting to cook like this a lot these days because it saves a lot of time and because it's delicious. Also, once you know, whatever you're cooking, like meat or anything, you could put chicken or lamb chops or pork chops on top of this while it cooks. You've just heard the microwave ping, so now we'll be able to look at the cooked pud. Okay, that's the pudding as it comes out of the oven. This is the just steak pudding, and for the reveal, that is what it looks like. Now let's just cut into that and show you what it looks like on the inside. So as you see, it's a little like my suet dumplings. In fact, it's a lot like my suet dumplings at this stage, and you'll see it's filled with delicious meaty chunks. That will be a rather tasty thing to eat. I'm going to serve that up with some instant gravy, instant brown gravy, which we tend to use a lot of in the UK now, and some of that roasted vegetable. I'll show you that in a minute, but first we need to reveal the other pud, see what that looks like. Alright, before I do that, I'm just going to do a little taste test of this and let you know how I feel about it. Meaty, delicious, tastes a lot like a homemade one. It's a really good product, and typical of what we've come to expect in the UK from Fray Bentos. It's really delicious. Okay, moving on to my favourite, the steak and kidney pudding. Here we go, and as you see, it drops easily out, looks much like the other one did. And let's put a knife through that and show you what that looks like. And again, not much difference there in the way it appears. But of course the difference will be in the way it tastes, and I will confirm that before your very eyes. Delicious. It could be a little more peppery for my taste, and I'll probably add a good dose of cracked blackjack to that. But there you are. And there's the two pies, and I will show that presented on a plate right now. So there it is, served up with some brown gravy and looking good.